So several trees were knocked down. Some people were going 20, 22 days without power, without water, without heating. So there was a lot of EU crews that were brought in to help deal with that. In Leitrim, where I'm from, we are surrounded by nothing but forestry, and it felled huge forests in between power lines. It knocked out several days of power on what is already very bad, extremely boggy land. So people did suffer that little bit more. So now it calls on the government to plant less of the sickest spruce trees, less of the Christmas looking trees, and more of our native trees like our beech, our birch. You'll see some parts of the willow, more of the holly. That's what we really love to see more of here in Ireland. When you're looking out of the bus, you'll start to see these big green pokey bushes with yellow flowers. They are just starting to be in their height of their bloom now. This is known as gorse, so like a horse, but with a G in front of it instead of a H. Gorse is incredibly prickly. Now, sheep are really stupid, and they'd nearly go through anything, but they find it very hard to go through gorse, because it would pull the skin off them. So you'll see some of the fields will have several gorse bushes in it, on the dangerous spots where you don't really want the sheep to grow. And it'll grow like heather across the Wicklow Mountain, which you are going to be seeing shortly. It's a burnt amber colour. Come the months of June, July, August and September, it'll be a gorgeous bright violet colour. But at the minute the gorse is starting to bloom, so it's lovely bright yellow flower. The Celts believed that this was a cure for depression, that the bright colour would send away any sadness, and it is also considered to be an old way of using a compass. If you taste the south-siding face of the plant, it's supposed to taste like coconut, like a Bounty bar, but minus the chocolate. So that real coconut taste. So if you were looking for the North Star and you couldn't see it because of fog or bad weather, if you found a gorse bush and you were nibbling around the flower and you hit the part that tasted like coconut, that faced south. And you could face east, west, north, wherever you were looking. This does not mean you get to Glendalough and start eating random flowers, please. But you'll see on the borders of all the fields here, bright yellow flowers in the bushes, so that is the gorse, very prickly little bush that you'll see. So a phenomenal golfer from the north of Ireland. We have Shane Lowry, who's from County Offaly. We have the gorgeous Pádraig Harrington, Leona Maguire, who's right from near me, gorgeous county of Cavan. So we've got some phenomenal golfers. They kind of win off and on here in Ireland, so we're delighted with them. But Rory McIlroy is the one that owns generally the most property. He owns a lovely, as you're heading to the cliffs, you drive through the town of Lahinch, and he owns a house there, and he was there right before he went over to lose at the Olympics. We have the MGM lion. At some point in your lives, you've all watched a movie where before the movie even starts, the lion reaches its head out of the circle and lets out this huge roar before the movie even starts. The MGM lion. If you listen very closely to that lion's roar, he has an unbelievable Irish accent on him, so he does phenomenal Irish accent. And that lion, while in Hollywood from 1924 until 1928, was actually born in Dublin Zoo in the Phoenix Park in Dublin. And he was born with the name Carberry, and they changed it to Leo. And he was a very typical Dublin lion. He had 26 children. before unfortunately he did have to be put down after he did attack a cameraman. So career did not end as well as we would have liked. Now there's some of the celebrities that we love. There's also celebrities we can't stand, that we will do anything to get rid of. Number one on that list, Bono from U2. Anybody know the difference between God and Bono? There's only one difference. The only difference is that God doesn't think he's Bono. It's the only difference between the two. So look, he's an alright lad, gives a pile of money away, but he doesn't like living here in Ireland because he has to pay tax. Who moved around from place to place just living off the Irish landscape. So all the nuts, the berries that grow wild here. And they also hunted the animal species. Now today, when you are driving through and walking through the Wicklow Mountains, the most dangerous animal that you will come across is a squirrel. We have no dangerous species here. We don't have a scorpion, we don't even have a big owl spider. There's no cougars, no lions, we have none of that. But at the time here in Ireland, we had the Irish wolf, we had the boar, we had the bear, the lynx, we had seriously dangerous creatures all over the island. We hunted them to extinction, with the final one being the wolf in 1647. So we haven't had any dangerous species since, and that is the way that we love it. But after the nomads, you had the arrival of the Celts. They arrived from 100 BC, they'd been pushed out of Western Europe, out of England, Scotland and Wales, and over here to Ireland. They didn't like to live as the nomads, moving around from place to place. They wanted to settle down, and they formed kingdoms known as Tuatha. Each kingdom was led by a king, and as Squealga it was known as Rí. So you'd have 170 kingdoms, all led by kings, all led by the Rí. Now the Celts were pagans. They didn't just believe in one god, they believed in many gods. There was gods for good and gods for evil, and they took all their gods from the natural spiritual world around them. So the rivers, the mountains, the lakes, the waterfalls, the trees, all had good and bad spirits that they associated with it. And we still celebrate several of those original Celtic festivals today. So one great example, Halloween. For anybody who is a fan of Criminal Minds, Spencer Reid at one point refers to the festival of what he calls Sam